Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? What great stories we have in our scripture readings this morning. They're really rather incredible. Humorous at times, deeply moving at other points. Obviously, too much material there to fully delve into, but to touch on a few. I'm reminded of the Sunday school teacher who was teaching her class about the raising of Lazarus. The same could be said for the Valley of Dry Bones. As the class went on, it was clear she was losing the interest of one little boy. To bring him back into the discussion, she asked him, Billy, what do you think Lazarus said when he came out of the tomb? Well, Billy looked at her very blankly, totally lost. So she asked the question again. Well, Billy thought and thought. And finally, his face lighted as he found an answer. He jumped out of his seat and said, ta-da! You can see Lazarus doing that, can't you? You can see all the dry bones put together going, ta-da! It kind of is a ta-da moment. Think about Ezekiel's vision, looking out on this vast valley filled with bones, filled with death. And the Lord comes to him and tells him to preach to these bones. Will they live? And so Ezekiel follows the Lord's words, and suddenly the bones come together, sinews and flesh come together. But there still wasn't real life yet. And the Lord said to Ezekiel to preach to the breath. The breath of God. When that came upon those bones, those lives, they were restored. They were fully alive and present. Ta-da! Of course, he was talking about the nation of Israel that was in exile, mostly in Babylon, and dispersed and felt isolated and alone and totally without hope, forgetting God's promises to them. And so Ezekiel is reminding them of God's promise, and that with God there is life, and that with God they will be restored and brought home to their land and made a nation again. In the gospel, we have the famous story of the raising of Lazarus. What a great story. Again, out of graves comes life. I had missed this earlier, but it caught me this morning. That in the first lesson, it says, the Lord says, I will open your graves. I will open your graves and bring you life. Here we are in the gospel, in John's gospel. A grave is opened and life is restored. And there's a great conversation that Jesus has with Mary and Martha, and the great proclamation of faith that Martha makes. I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus says, do you believe? Jesus perhaps is seeing in this moment a foreshadow of the events that will occur in just a couple of weeks, as he too will go to Jerusalem and to the cross and to the grave. And so Jesus wept. Probably not just for Lazarus and the women, but for what he is to endure in the weeks to come. Martha says, "Yes, Lord, I believe." Again, where there is Jesus, there is life. No matter how isolated one may feel, how full of fear one may have, how apart from others one may be for whatever reason, not just for epidemics, but for whatever reason, with the life focused on Jesus and God's promises, a new day will come. Everything will change. Love and grace and mercy will restore our lives to some sense of what we might consider normal for us as Christians. I'm reminded of the story about George Frederick Handel. I didn't know this before I came across it this week. At the age of 56, George Frederick Handel was a pathetic shadow of what he had been. He had incompletely recovered from a paralyzing stroke and was almost broke. For years, his Italian operas were well received, but the aesthetic tastes of the public switched to French stage plays rather than Italian operas. For Handel, life had become soulless shadowland, much like the experience of those captive Israelites. One night, as he was limping home through the dreary London fog, Handel was contemplating his fate. When he got home, he found a piece of mail from a man named Jennings. It was a manuscript that he hoped Handel might develop into an oratorio. As Handel thumbed through the piece, the words suddenly came alive. Comfort ye, my people, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed." Instantly, his depression and gloom fell away as the composer feverishly penned the music that flooded his entire being. He hardly paused to eat or sleep as the melodies and harmonies flowed from his pen. 17 days and nights later, he was finished. The Messiah lifted Handel out of the valley of dry bones, out of Lazarus' grave, and became an instant favorite that has continued to ring out the Christian message of resurrection life down through the corridors of time. With Jesus, there is life. Keep Jesus in your hearts and in your homes. There is life. There is love. There is grace. And there is mercy. Those who we've encountered this Lenten season, Nicodemus, the Samaritan woman at the well, the blind man, and now Lazarus, when they came into the presence of Jesus, their lives were changed. Their lives were renewed. Their lives were restored. So I think the question of Jesus to Martha this morning is an appropriate question for us to reflect upon as well during this later days of the Lenten season. Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in